Word for us and admitting attendees now. All right. Good afternoon. Thank you all for attending the last session of day one of the 2022 Smart Start Conference. This session is hosted by one of our sponsors, Discount School Supply. It's Motivate, Inspire, Lead. I'm excited you can attend with us. As a reminder, at the end of the session, I will share out a survey link for just day one. You can provide feedback about any sessions you've attended throughout the day, including this one. Additionally, we do have a grand prize raffle that if you attend all 6 sponsorship sessions, you can fill out a Google form and enter to win that grand prize raffle. It's a $250 gift card. So at the end of this session, we will provide a code word and just keep track of that code word. And then when you collect all 6, you can fill out our Google form and enter to win a chance to win that gift card. So again, thank you all so much and welcome Discount School Supply.
Thank you. Well, it's great to see everyone. We're excited to be a part of the annual Smart Start Conference this year. Even though it's virtual, it's still a great event and we're excited to be a part of this. And we look forward to working with you the rest of this year and into the next year and so forth. My name is Trey Camp and I am your local account manager. When I say local, that's all of North Carolina that I represent and cover. So I look forward to working with everyone in the future. You have access to my information if you need it through Yvonne and through the site here in the portal. If you have any needs on anything, feel free to reach out to me as your account manager to take care of you with whatever you need from Discount School Supply. We're lucky today to have Mr. Keith Pence with us to give us a presentation on Motivate, Inspire, and Lead. Keith is an early year program consultant, has over 40 years of experience in the education field. And with that, I'll turn it over to Keith and let him take it from here.
Great, thanks, Trey, and very glad to be with everyone. I actually live in Sarasota, Florida when I am not on the road. I happen to be on the road today, so that's why you'll see me in a hotel room right now. I'm actually in Baltimore for the National Head Start Conference, getting ready to do some presentations there starting tomorrow. But very glad to be with you here for the Smart Start Conference. I've actually been fortunate to present at that conference a couple times in years past when it was live, and glad to be invited back. And thanks, Trey and Discount School Supply for inviting me to participate with that. Saying that, the subject today is Motivate, Inspire, Lead. And if I put a subtitle on this, it would be, how do we go about building collegial communities for learning? And the impact that we have most recently had, particularly as we have dealt with COVID and as we are transitioning hopefully into a post-COVID world, that leadership is going to need to take on some different forms and possibly some different roles and so on that you may have to actually be a part of. In my life, as Trey indicated, I have over 40 years in the field. I've been everything from an assistant child care director to infant toddler worker. I taught preschool, kindergarten, lower elementary. I was a college and university professor, a professional development specialist. I now work as an independent consultant. And you'll find my information on the screen, and at the end I'll have it also in case you have questions of me or want some other additional ideas and references and so on related to the topic or to anything early childhood, my email is there as well as my cell phone. So let's launch right into it. We only have an hour to spend with each other, and I want to go right into it right away. When I think of leadership, I think about leaders who have influenced me, and I think about my own role as especially in the college and university profession. Leadership requires passion and what I refer to as compassion. You have to be excited about what you're doing. The people who are there with you are going to follow that. So the subtitle for this session on building collegial communities for learning is one that while you aren't the sole person who is going to be responsible for that, you are, as a leader, you are going to be required to take some kind of a role that is going to sort of help to guide and facilitate and lay the foundation for what can happen. I put up some images here of things that I personally am passionate and compassionate about. If you take a look, I live in Sarasota. On the bottom left side of the screen, you'll see there's a picture of a beach. I love the beach. I'm very passionate about the beach. When I can get there and have time to be there, I just thoroughly enjoy that. Up in the upper corner, you'll see the Duomo from Florence, Italy. I dearly love Italy. I love going there for vacation. I have had the good fortune of going to Italy several times to study over in Reggio Emilia. Some of you may be familiar with that program as well. Florence is one of my absolute favorite places in the world. I just absolutely love going there. So another thing I'm passionate about. Back down to the bottom row, you'll see a blue bag that has some chocolate truffles in it. It's from Jean-Paul Havane. It's my favorite chocolate shop in Paris. And it's one of my wife's favorite chocolate shops as well. We always have to make a run to Jean-Paul Havane for chocolate anytime we venture over to Paris. We had the good fortune back this past fall for my birthday. We actually ventured over and spent a few days in Paris. And of course, I had to get my chocolate truffles and more. But the other pictures you'll see there is something I'm passionate about, but also very compassionate about, and that's babies and children in general. If we are to assume any kind of leadership roles at all, we have to think about who really is our audience, who are we really working for? And in our case in early ed, we really need to be about the children. And as I'm going to be pointing out some different factors and some different things for you to consider, I want you to think about the children who really are the crux of what we do, and how we need to not only have that passion and desire to help them and be with them, but also to be compassionate. A definition for compassion, we often put empathy and compassion together. Dan Siegel, who is a psychiatrist and a neuro researcher out of UCLA, Dan talks about in his work about that compassion is empathy in action. And I really like that definition, that compassion is empathy in action. We can be concerned about children, we can be concerned about programming, we can be concerned about our staff, but if we aren't truly doing something about it, in other words, if we truly don't resonate with or model and demonstrate that compassion, we aren't going to have too much movement forward. So, as I said, this session is going to be about different things to consider that might help to drive your passion, your compassion, and help to build a more collegial learning community in whatever facility and wherever you happen to work. First thing for you to consider is the quality of life. Quality of life for yourself, the quality of life for the staff. I chose this illustration because there's water involved. I showed you before, I'm really more of a beach person. I'm not a mountains person. And yet I can go to the mountains and be someplace with the mountains and still find the beauty and the quietness and so on. But part of our job as leaders and role models is that we have to somehow figure out ways of creating a quality of life. And that can come in a variety of different ways. It can be how you talk to the staff. It can be how the opportunities that you provide. You know, what are your goals and objectives, and how do they? And we'll be talking more about this in a little bit. How are they working together with those that are in your care and guidance? So thinking about quality of life, finding a way to make sure that the quality of life is strong, that it is meaningful and significant for everyone involved. A quote from, and I'll be interspersing a variety of quotes throughout the presentation. A quote from Gandhi is one that impacted me a long, long time ago. And I think it has a lot to do with quality of life and so on. And because quality of life is not just for the people that we're with, but it's also for us too. We sort of all work together. And this quote is, "Be the change that you wish to see in the world." And to me, that is so critical, that we demonstrate passion and compassion. We set up quality of life by being the change. In other words, we model that. We don't necessarily have to have all the answers. And we'll talk more about that. We don't necessarily have to individually have all the answers, but we can set up an environment. We can find a way to help those that we are working with to actually be all that they possibly can be. And so in order to do that, though, we have to make sure that we know a direction and provide that guidance, which is where we get into finding a compelling mission. What is the compelling mission? I work as an independent consultant, and one of the things that I am finding now as I go with programs, and I think part of it is because of COVID, part of it is just because of our field and how that our field continues to morph and change over the years. But I am a little disappointed that staff rarely can tell me what the mission is, or even a vision statement for the program that they are working with. I find that a little disconcerting. If you don't know where you're going, if you don't know what you're supposed to be doing, you know, how are you going to achieve that? It's one thing to say that you work for XYZ program, or that you're an early childhood educator, or you're the director, or you're the supervisor, the whatever. But it's another thing to truly understand what the mission and vision of your program is. Sometimes that mission and vision is already somewhat predetermined, depending on who you're working, what agency and so on you're working with. But in other cases, many times it's something that you have to create. At the same time, there has to be buy-in to that. You should not be the sole driving force behind that mission and vision. You can have your own input, but at the same time, bringing other people on board with that is absolutely critical. So making sure that you have a compelling mission, making sure that the people that you work with, that the people that are directly responsible to you understand what that mission is, and whether or not that's something that you need to have published and put up in some kind of literal written format on a wall somewhere, so people can see that. Maybe it's on you can have a mission or a vision statement on a newsletter, on your website, someplace like that, where it's constantly in front of you, constantly in front of the staff, so that you do have an idea of where you're heading. A couple little things. I often think about my own classroom. When I was a classroom teacher, I used to put things up above my doorway to inspire me. It was a constant reminder to me, okay, this is what you need to be focusing on, or this is what you need to be doing. It may not have necessarily been a mission or a vision statement, but it gave me some kind of guidance. So adding that additional bit of literal input, meaning something that's visually apparent, is going to enhance all that and be a constant reminder. Another significant factor for you to consider as you are working with staff is to make sure that there is a definite balance between tasks and maintenance activities. One of the best things that I ever learned to do was to talk to the people I worked with about what they enjoyed doing and what they did not enjoy doing. As a classroom teacher, I had an assistant when I taught preschool. I had an assistant, and I'll never forget. She was with me 6 of the 7 years that I taught preschool. I'll never forget when the very first time we met, we sat down and I said to her, I said, tell me about what it is that you really enjoy doing. And she just sort of looked at me and she said, nobody's ever really asked me that. And she had to think about it for a little bit. And then she started to divulge a few things she really enjoyed doing. And I said, well, tell me the things you don't like to do. Because one of us is going to have to do some things, and maybe both of us don't like to do the same thing. And so there was a sort of a meeting of the mind, so to speak, to understand that, hey, sometimes there are tasks and maintenance activities that you may enjoy or you may not enjoy. And if you have an understanding that, hey, we're all in this together. My wife and I just celebrated our 43rd wedding anniversary last week. And we went out to dinner at our favorite Italian restaurant in Sarasota. And I was pleasantly surprised, especially as I was thinking about getting ready to do this presentation. And I knew this slide was going to be part of that presentation. At this particular restaurant in Sarasota, when we walked in, the place was hopping. Last Friday night, the place was hopping. It's a 2-tiered restaurant. You have a full bottom floor. You have an elevated balcony type floor, and then there's a full outside area too. Place was packed. It's a very highly rated restaurant, and lots of people enjoy going there. And it was great watching a party of over 20 people that were in one part of the restaurant, as well as the rest of the clients and diners that were there. And the staff was diligent, doing the best job that they could. But it was also very, very interesting to me. I saw the 2 owners who I happened to recognize. I saw the 2 owners literally come out on the floor and start to just do stuff. If a table needed bussed, it got bussed. If somebody needed checked in over at the register, and the person who was hosting was already out on the floor, one of them jumped in and took charge and did that. It wasn't like they were looking around waiting on someone else to find time or whatever. They jumped in and did whatever was necessary. It's that collaborative community that all of us are involved in this. Yes, we may have different titles. Yes, we may have different roles. Yes, we may have different responsibilities, but ultimately, just as their responsibility was to make sure that the restaurant ran well and that and all the diners had a pleasant experience, your part of your responsibility is to make sure that the children in your care and the families in your program also feel that way. And it's all right to go ahead and jump in there and help out as necessary. helping people understand there has to be a balance between task and maintenance activities, and that whatever you choose to do may or may not necessarily be what you always like. One of my favorite quotes ever I saw on a t-shirt many, many years ago. What if the hokey pokey is really what it's all about? And you might think, what's this have to do with leadership? Well, and motivation and leading. To me, the hokey pokey has a lot to do with a lot of stuff, because you put part in, pull part out. Put your whole self in, pull your whole self out. You turn yourself about. You be the change. You figure out what is important, tasks and maintenance activities. You help people along. Yes, it may sound silly. It may seem rather trite and perhaps not even all that professional. But to me, it's just that idea that we have to have this openness, this willingness to try things. This willingness and desire to make sure that things truly are exciting and so on. One of my favorite quotes comes from Loris Malaguzzi too. Loris Malaguzzi was the founder of the Reggio Emilia schools over in Italy. And that quote is 3 simple words: nothing without joy. Nothing without joy. And to me, that is sort of the crux of everything that we do in early education. That we need to be joyful ourselves, but at the same time, we need to create joyful programs and classrooms and set things up so that the children can also be very, very successful. We also want to make sure that for our staff and for ourselves, that there's open, honest, and reciprocal communication. Open, honest, and reciprocal communication. Your door should be sort of an open door. Now, you may say, well, that can't always work. To me, the best supervisors I ever had were people who were very open and honest with me. And they invited me to share directly with them. An example of one way that you might wish to try it, especially now that spring is here and the weather can be a little bit better, and whenever your program kicks in and so on. I shared this idea with some directors that, in another presentation. And when, what I recall was telling them that what they should consider is sometime during the day, taking a staff member and just giving that staff member 5-7 minutes of your time, going for a quick walk. If it goes to 10 minutes, great. Yes, I know there are staffing issues. Yes, I know, staff may have other things that they want to do. But what I was suggesting was just go talk to somebody, walk around your facility, walk outside for a few minutes. Just both of you just take time, get to know each other. And, find a way to talk about everything except the job. Try to find something that you connect with, something that makes you human and personal, and so on. It's been fascinating that even just 2 months ago, I heard back from a director who said that she took that to heart. And she made a concerted effort that over the course of the week, that she would find 10 minutes to just take one of her staff at a time and just go for a walk, go find someplace, maybe just go sit down and just chat, just talk. She said the climate in the space has radically changed because there is this notion of this idea that, hey, we're in this together. There's a deeper understanding of each other on a personal level. And so this open, honest, reciprocal communication is important. And how do we actually get that open, honest, and reciprocal communication? Harriet Lerner, a psychologist, said we need to listen with the same passion as that with which we wish or you wish to be heard. Listen with the same passion as that with which you wish to be heard. Many times when we are in leadership roles, we feel that we have to just sort of dictate what's going to happen, rather than finding some way to collegially, have that open, honest, and reciprocal communication, working together, listening to each other, truly being aware of someone's needs and so on. I've also learned a lot about this from my wife, as she left corporate world after many years of working in the corporate setting in the financial area, and she decided to retool herself a little bit and do something else that she wanted to do. So 2 years ago, she became a trauma recovery coach, and totally different way of interacting with people and that sort of thing. And one of the things that we have talked about mutually is this idea of how you listen to people, and truly listen, hear what they're saying. Don't just, let the words come in and go out, but truly listen. So listening with the same passion as that with which you wish to be heard. Because, the people she's working with as clients, they have stories to tell. And while she professionally can't share those stories with me, due to confidentiality, she can allude to the ideas and so on. And, I've learned from her that you just have to be a good listener. And I know I'm one of those people, as you can maybe already tell. I like to talk a lot. I'm an auditory learner on top of that too. So I like to hear sounds and music and whatever else is going on. And so sometimes I need to learn for myself to just be quiet. Back to that quality of life stuff. I just need to be quiet and truly listen with the same passion that I wish to be heard. Culture, work culture, our work environment. Making sure that the culture is cooperative and conducive to collaboration. And the things I've already talked about are what actually creates that. If we are good listeners, if we have a compelling mission and vision statement, if we balance tasks and maintenance activities, if we support a quality of life for people, there's just so much that can happen, because the culture then gets to be much more cooperative. People just work together in very, very unique and productive ways. I'll give you a personal example from where this was modeled for me big time. I was teaching kindergarten in Orlando at a school. The principal that came to the school that year had been a principal for a long time. The school was changing demographically. It was just a lot of changes were happening in the school. Teachers, community people just were not happy with the direction that things were going. There came a lot of animosity toward each other. I remember walking down the hallway, and there were 5 kindergarten teachers. I was one of those 5 kindergarten teachers, and you could feel the negativity. It was palpable going down the hallway. In fact, on my team, 2 of us sort of philosophically fell along with where we saw the principal wanting to take the direction of how to make everything much more cooperative and community building and all that sort of thing. The other 3 people on the kindergarten team really didn't want that to happen. They were very much more independent thinking and thinking, hey, this has to be, we have to do this on our own and forget everybody else. And the hallways in the school, when you walk down, the negativity was palpable. Principal called me and 4 other people and said she was going to facilitate us to go down to Naples, Florida for a 1-week training on community building. And she said it would be over the summer and all expenses paid and all that kind of stuff. Well, anytime anybody says all expenses paid, I'm right there. But no, but seriously, it was an exciting thing. We went down, spent 6 days, long days in sessions and training and practicing and doing things. And when we came back the following fall, the one thing that they had challenged us with, that to me was a defining point in my early career and has impacted me for the rest of my life. And that was, whenever you are in the workspace, when you are working at the school site, do not say anything negative about another person or anything else that is going on. Find a way to curtail the negative talk. You can talk about it to your spouse. You can talk about it off campus. You can talk about it wherever else you need to go, but keep that campus moving in a positive direction. We started doing that. We started doing some different things. I was actually teaching classes at a wellness center at the time, and we had staff there who could do things like take blood pressures and do weight management and all that kind of stuff. And so we had somebody who did chair massage and so on. The principal asked me if I would get some of those people to come over. Sure enough, they agreed. Once a month, people came over. Teachers could sign up to have a chair massage over their lunch period. There was counseling for weight management. People would get their blood pressure taken. Just these small little things that we started to do and started to create a much more positive environment, keeping the language positive too. Hey, look what we're doing, building on the positive rather than looking at the negative. Within one year, the difference in the school environment was truly amazing, just truly amazing. And it was interesting that at the end of that next year, there were 3 teachers who chose to leave. 3 teachers who chose to leave. And when the principal told me privately later, she said when she interviewed these 3 teachers about why they were choosing to leave, they said, to all 3 of them said, I don't like all this positivity. I just don't like all this positive stuff. I find that fascinating. That they would rather have a negative, hurtful, spiteful environment to work in than a positive one. Saying all that to say, find ways to keep the culture cooperative, conducive, and collaboration. And a side thing is not only will the children and the families feel better, but you and the staff will feel better too. The other thing we need to remember is we're interdependent. We talk about independence all the time, about how we are independent, and that's what we are striving for. When the reality is we're very interdependent. We're all in this together. I don't know anyone who can grow all their own food. I don't know anyone who can build their own vehicle. I don't know anyone who can construct their own building all by themselves. it doesn't matter what we do in life. And I realize I talked about big things here, but, we're all interdependent. We're dependent on others for so many things. And if we truly are interdependent, then we need to find ways that we can actually work together, and that it makes some kind of sense that what I can offer is supportive of you, and what you can offer is supportive of me. Another personal example. I'm the oldest of three boys, and growing up, we all had different temperaments and we different interests and that sort of thing. I was very academic oriented. My first undergraduate degree is actually in music, and I was a church musician prior to going into education. So music and academia and books and all that sort of thing are very near and dear to my heart, because that's me. My middle brother was mechanically oriented. Kip could take anything apart and put it back together and make it work better than it was brand new. He just had a knack of knowing how to fix things. I don't have that gift. It's just not something I can do. If I lift up the hood of the car, I go, ain't that pretty? When Kip lifted up the hood of the car, he could tell you everything that was going on there, what part was connected to what, why it worked the way it did, why it didn't work the way it did, and so on. If I had a problem with my car, I would call my brother. Because he was the first person I called before he even took it into a shop, because I knew Kip had some kind of knowledge that I just personally did not have, and vice versa. When my brother needed somebody to play music for his kids' weddings and different kinds of family things, who did he call? He called me. We all have skills and talents and abilities, and we're very interdependent. And when we find out what those are about each other, back to that idea of talking and listening and being together, when we truly find out about those kinds of things with each other, it truly can be something truly, truly special that happens in our programs. Vygotsky, the psychologist, said all higher mental functions, or what we refer to as executive functions today: problem solving, creativity, imagination, empathy, compassion, those things I've already addressed, self-regulation, self-control, all higher mental functions are internalized social relationships. It's up to us to create environments where the relationships are positive, because that is what is going to impact the greater good. The positive way of thinking, problem solving. If you have a lot of negativity, like I mentioned about the elementary school I taught in, if you have a lot of negativity going on there, guess what? There's not a whole lot of problem solving. And it carries over to the children. Side note, back to that story. While I'm not a huge fan of looking at test scores and that sort of thing, test scores in Florida, schools are rated based on their test scores, A to F. And it was interesting. Our school went from a D school to a B school in 1 year. And that just has to be because of the positivity and so on. The children benefited, even though a lot of it wasn't directed toward them per se. We have accountability that requires all members to work toward the mission. We need to just be available to each other and hold each other accountable. So many times, some people are very codependent. They do things for somebody else. I can be codependent sometimes with people, and just sort of let things slough off, rather than understanding that sometimes People just have to take whatever happens and be accountable for all that. But if we can build that idea, together, that we all are responsible to help this mission and to help this thing that we're calling early education to be successful. We're all in this together. It's back to that interdependence that I mentioned. We also need to have mutual respect, trust, and a trustworthy school environment. If we don't have respect for each other, and I'm every time I think this, I think about Aretha Franklin. That's an aside, but anyway, but it has to be mutual respect. There has to be trust. That trustworthy school environment. Whenever you show up at work, everyone at work should be able to feel like everybody has each other's back. And so when you do that, and that you all have gifts and abilities and capabilities to do different things. As I pointed out, I gave you a couple of examples earlier. The restaurant, interdependency with my principal taking over and helping to provide guidance so that the school could come together in a much different way. Those take some planning. And at the same time, you need to go back to that very first, one of the first things we talked about, which was that understanding what is your goal and what is your mission. What is the vision that you have? Anna Ulanoff, another researcher, talks about that one and one make not two, but one. And I love this idea. We often think, well, it's me, it's you, it's two different people. But because we are interdependent, because we need to have that mutuality and respect for each other, we become a unified force, so to speak, in our program. In other words, it's not just about a bunch of different individuals. It's about all of us working together to create that unified idea, which leads to teamwork. Teamwork is about time and resources and structures. Structures meaning not the physical buildings, but the systems that we have in place. Time, resources, and structures that support and facilitate collaboration. Is there enough time to make that happen? One of the things that blew me away on my first trip over to Italy and Reggio was the notion of the idea that the director made sure that teachers had a full 45-minute lunch period. A full 45-minute lunch period. The director made sure that there was there was enough staffing to cover, so that teachers could actually have a lunch period of 45 minutes where they could actually sit and talk and eat and just plan and just talk about life and what's going to happen. I mean, when I think about my work, and my working, there were many, many days I never got a lunch. Many, many days. I have a bad bladder because I wasn't able to always use the facilities too. So, I mean, there's just all kinds of reasons why it's unhealthy not to have time and resources and systems in place. You're going to do a better job. You're going to have greater outcomes and results with your program whenever there is that sense of teamwork and the structures and the systems are in place to make sure that collaboration works. Because out of that comes all kinds of different possibilities. Quote from Emily Dickinson, that imagination lights the slow fuse of possibility. Well, I'm here to tell you, back to what we were talking about with higher mental functions, there is no imagination. There is no imagination if you aren't able to think positively and out the frontal lobe. The imagination just doesn't exist. What happens is you end up in survival mode, fight, flight, and freeze all the way back in your brainstem. And so imagination lights the slow fuse of possibility. You know, it's okay for you not to have all the answers. It's okay for you not to have all the answers. Alison Gopnik, some of you may know who Alison Gopnik is. She has been responsible for a lot of research and has written several books. One was called The Scientist in the Crib. Another was The Philosophical Baby. But a book that she wrote just a couple of years ago called The Gardener and the Carpenter. And it may be the other way around, maybe the carpenter and the gardener. I always pick that title up. But anyway, in that book, she talks about how that she wishes that people, teachers, childcare directors, parents, grandparents, that people would take time to recognize that you don't have to have all the answers. And that it's okay when you are in a conversation to say, I wonder, or what if? In other words, it's putting something out there that doesn't have a definitive answer. And so when we light up this possibility, this slow fuse of possibility with imagination, I wonder what would happen. I wonder what if. Lots of trial and error. That scientific method, just lots of trial and error. Just having a hypothesis, trying something. Not relying on the tried and true all the time. Being willing to step out and move forward. We all know that post-COVID, when we finally get all the way around that, we finally get through this transition and we get post-COVID, things have to change because they aren't the same as they were. And anybody who is thinking we're just going to go back and start all over, is living in a fantasy world. That just is not going to happen. Children are different. Parents are different. You are different. All of us are different as a result of all of us sharing this together. I did a presentation at Texas AEYC about 2 months ago, and it was to an infant toddler crowd. And when I was talking about this notion of this idea of transitioning into a post-COVID type of situation, there was a woman who commented. She said, I've been an infant provider for 30 years. And she said, the babies coming in are just different. Now that they're reopening, the babies are just different. And that started a conversation about all the different ways that the children are going to respond differently and so on. How does that impact your mission? How does that impact your vision? How does that impact what your staff is going to do? How they're going to act? The curriculum that you're using. How's that going to impact the parents that you're talking to? All these things are different than they were before. We're going to need lots of imagination, lots of creativity to move that along. So where and how do we do that? Well, I'd like to refer to these as new beginnings. Real simple ideas of places where you can start for yourself primarily, but particularly as a leader in your role. First that you will see is begin with you. Begin with you. That quality of life, all of this has to begin with you. Start that new beginning yourself. Figure out, okay, these are the things that have been working. These are the things that haven't been working. What do I need to do? Take time to talk to somebody else. Remember, you don't have to, be on your own on this. Find a way to help each other. I remember when I was working on my doctorate that doctoral stats. I had 3 courses in doctoral statistics. Just racked my brain. While I was good in math, stats and I did not necessarily have a good friendship. And the only reason I was able to get through that stats course, or those 3 stats courses, was because there was a cohort of us, 22 of us, every Tuesday night, the day before our class, every Tuesday night, we would meet at Applebee's, and we would order appetizers and drinks. The drinks probably were not necessarily the best thing to do, but what you have to do. We would order appetizers and drinks, and we would just talk to each other about what was going on. We were taking care of, which is the next thing you see there. You take care of yourself. You have to start with you, and you take care of yourself. I fly a lot, and I'm back to flying now that a lot of things are live and in person again. It was curtailed big time, of course, the last couple of years. But on the flights, you'll see, doesn't matter which airline you're flying or whatever, they always say, put your own mask on first in case of an emergency. If that oxygen mask falls down, put yours on first. You're no good to anybody else. You're no good to anybody else if you are falling apart or if you have passed out on the plane. You gotta figure that out. So while I've talked about we're interdependent and we work for collaboration, cooperation, and so on, you still have to have your own personal responsibility along that. Next idea you'll see there is think big and start small. Go big. Don't just think, well, we can only do this, or we can only do this. Think big. You may have to start small. Yes, you may only be able to do one little thing, but the outcome is going to be so different. And I'll use myself as an example here again too. When I first started playing the piano, if any of you play keyboards or any musical instrument, you seem to get so tired of just doing the scales, the little fingerings, the little tiny little 2 or 3 note patterns that you have to do over and over and over. But later, when you're playing that Rachmaninoff piece, or you're playing some, in my case, Scriabin from early, or Debussy or something, or Beethoven or something, and that big piece comes along. You wouldn't have gotten to that big piece if you hadn't started with those first small notes, long ago. Build momentum. Think about that. Build momentum. Once things get rolling, think about what are next steps. This is where the I wonder, what if, we're here, we can go with this. Vygotsky, I'm very Vygotskian in my own personal thinking. So if you know Vygotsky theory at all, about leading towards scaffolding, learning, and that sort of thing. The zone of proximal development, you get a foundation started, you build on that, you scaffold up, you take it to the next level, you build momentum, you keep going along the way. You build capacity, keeping options open down the road. Knowledge creation. I have been doing some private work with a particular agency that will remain nameless purposely. When I asked the directors, and this is multiple sites, when I asked the directors about their teacher resource library, the only things that they could say were in their teacher resource library were curriculum guides. I was quite dismayed when I heard that, because I am one of those people. I'm one of those people that I do a lot of reading, I do a lot of study, I do a lot of research on my own, a lot of knowledge creation. I want others to be able to do that too. And so I took the initiative and I provided them a short list of what I consider to be foundational or important books that need to be on their shelves in their teacher resource library. Because if you don't have that knowledge, if you aren't creating knowledge and understanding, how are you going to meet your mission and your vision and so on. You also need to go the distance. And what we mean by that is hang in there. It's not always easy. Things happen. COVID happens. Things happen along the way. And we need to be willing and able to hang in there. I know in our field especially, the last 10, 15 years in particular, I've just been bombarded with so many things, everything from finances to staffing to whatever. I mean, we've always had certain issues, but it just seems like things just keep happening and are morphing. And those of us who have been around for a while, we know that it will pass. We've seen these cycles before. But if you're relatively new to all of this, you may be thinking, oh, is there any end in sight? Well, yes, there'll be an end in sight. But at the same time, it goes back to some of these other things we've been talking about. It's going to look different. It's definitely going to look different. And we need to be willing and able to accept that and to move on. The last thing that you'll see there is hope. Just keeping hope out there that and this is where that very first slide that I talked about, the passion and compassion, if we truly recognize that what we're working toward is the betterment of lives for children, that to me is the crux of everything. That it isn't about the furnishings, it isn't about the products, it isn't about the curriculum, it isn't about all that. All of that is our support system, so to speak. It's about the love and the nurture and the care and the hope that we provide for those children. That quote that I gave you earlier from Loris Malaguzzi, nothing without joy. Keeping that at the fore of your thinking, keeping that as something that that if the children aren't happy, you and the teachers can't be happy. And the same thing, if you aren't happy, the children aren't going to be happy. As I promised, I want to leave you with my personal contact information. You are more than welcome to be in touch with me. Trey is your North Carolina rep. Trey has my contact information as well. So if you are in touch with him and you say, hey, I didn't get that down about Keith, can you put me in touch with him? Trey, you have my permission to give them all my personal information along there. Right. And anyway, I want to thank you all very, very much for your listening today. Hopefully you picked up on something that was meaningful and helpful to you. And I do wish you all the best. And constantly be reminded to do nothing without joy.
Thank you, Keith. Great information. I appreciate you sharing that, with the motivate, inspire, and lead. I think that all of us could take a little piece of the information from this presentation forward in our lives and implement that. And it's really all about how you process the difficulties in life and how you accept that and those challenges, and then turn it into a positive and move forward. So thank you for the great presentation.
Welcome.
Yes, and I want to announce that we have a winner on the raffle prize for the gift basket. It's a $200 value. Consists mainly of art supplies, so it's a nice gift basket. I will get that up to Yvonne, to the main office. Is that okay, Yvonne?
Yes, that will be fine.
Okay, and the winner is, I hope I'm pronouncing the name correctly, is Janelle Lewis is the winner. And so
Hi, Janelle, are you still with us? See if I can find Janelle.
And Janelle just responded to the comments. Wow. So Janelle will be in contact with you with your.
Okay,
Great. Congratulations.
and I will get that up to the office here the next, this week or the following.
Wonderful. That will be fine. Thank you both so much for a wonderful session. Keith, I loved all the great sayings. They're really wonderful and it goes well with your session. Thank you all for attending such a great session. The survey is in the chat. If not, if it's in your emails that you've received from us, we would love for you to fill out the survey and give us your feedback. Also, tomorrow's sessions start tomorrow at 10 a.m. So we look forward to you seeing you all tomorrow. Again, thank you, Keith and Trey. Thank you so much to Discount School Supply for all your support. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Yes, thank you all so much. And also I want to announce that this is the first of our sponsorship sessions, and by attending all 6 sessions and keeping an eye on that code word, and we have put the code word in the chat, is INSPIRE. So our raffle prize will be given out at the end of the conference, and the first word that will go in that Google form to enter to win will be INSPIRE. So again, thank you for attending. If you have any feedback about today, we would appreciate you taking our SurveyMonkey survey for today. So thank you all so much. And Keith, Trey, thank you so much. And thank you to Discount School Supplies.
You're welcome.
Quite
My pleasure.
welcome. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.